And when teachers take my course, it's not just like things will get a little bit better. It's like, I am going to blow your socks off by how different it's going to be, or else I'll refund your investment, no questions asked. Because once you put in strategies, it just switches everything. And you go from working against your kids to working together. And then each day of building on that is just, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. This is Conversation Balloons, a podcast of interviews with experts and friends about all things generational. I'm your host, Leah Farish. Caylee Carullo is our guest today. Her course, The Calm Classroom, has helped teachers around the world with classroom management, reducing misbehavior by strengthening relationships. She's been featured on Fox News, and her podcast, the Pre-K Teacher Family Podcast, is packed with good ideas that I have used as a Sunday school teacher for little ones, or just analogizing to even relating to teens, and as a grandmother and mother. So welcome, Caylee.
Thank you.
Well, let's launch right into your phrase, the calm classroom, the name of your course, and also quite a paradigm philosophically, I think, that you operate from, which I love. Talk about the sounds, the smells, the lighting of a calm classroom.
Okay, so I taught preschool, which everyone just kind of thinks is supposed to be chaotic and crazy, and everyone thinks that's just how they are. They're just little, and I wanted to show everybody that even preschool students can be very focused on their work, can follow the rules and raise their hand, and the noise can be controlled, and it can be a space where everyone feels welcome and feels like they matter.
I love that. It can be hard to hang on to high ideals when you're in the daily grind of a pre-K classroom, I'm sure, but you have done it and really elevated that with your experience. You were in the classroom yourself for 7 years, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So you were in a public school setting, is that right?
Yep. In a public schools, Denver public schools. I got in there all excited to finally have my own classroom. And I was overcome with this kind of sadness because I loved the kids. I had gone to school to be a teacher. I thought I had everything I needed. And then I didn't know what to do about the tough behaviors I was seeing. And as you know, a couple tough behaviors can throw off the entire classroom. And so I wasn't, my strategies weren't working. There wasn't really any help available. So I kind of immersed myself in figuring out what needs to happen to get the kids to follow the directions, and, how to get them to listen when I'm talking, and how to create a space where kids feel like they could be independent and they could be empowered to do what they're supposed to do without them wanting to act out and kind of disrupt the whole environment. And that was hard. And I didn't find resources in my building to help with that. I didn't find very many, solutions online. So I kind of went on my own journey to figure out what's going to work here. And I found a lot of strategies that I tested that year after year worked. And that's sort of what I put together into my course. The stuff that's just, it worked for me every year, and it'll work for anybody else.
What was one of the first changes that you made that led to improvement?
So I can remember having one really tough kid who would have these explosive tantrums and literally like a tornado destroy the entire classroom and have to be removed. And everyone is so distraught in those moments. And my school, they had some resources. So they were saying, okay, well, we'll put a plan in place where we'll come and remove that child. We'll have this security guard come. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right, but I don't know what to do because I need to, protect my space and my children. And even, for that kid, this isn't good when he has his own tantrums. And so I kind of followed along with what they were recommending that we do, but nothing was getting better. He would just still do it. And so I started investing in my relationship with him and just taking a moment to connect with him, and it was hard because I was so on edge around him because I'm just waiting for this tornado to be unleashed. So it's hard to kind of get yourself to relax and really think about connecting with this student. But little by little, I was able to get through to him, and he started to respond to me differently because of the way that I talked to him and the way that I interacted with him. So before long, I would be able to say, "Hey, bud, hold my hand. Let's go get a drink," when I could see that something was about to happen. And he would say, "Okay," and he would come with me. And it was like some of these kids who are seen as the hardest and the worst behaved kids, I now know that we can turn them around into being literally your best helper, like your best little
An
partner.
ally. Yeah.
They can be the best if you just shift the way that you make them feel and the way that you interact with them, because all kids need a purpose. And when kids are misbehaving, that purpose is taken away. So you have to be the one that says, "Hey, bud, I care about you a lot. I need your help with something important." And that's what's missing. They don't have a purpose. So they show up and they don't have anything that they get to feel like they're responsible for doing, so that they feel like there's a reason for them being there.
And how would you apply that in your family? You're a mom yourself, and we have grandparents that listen to our show. How can other people who are not with the children maybe 40 hours a week impart that sense of purpose or get them connected better?
So I have a little strategy that I use. So first, let's think about kind of how we get here. So like the disruptive behaviors are very powerful. You can't ignore it, but you can't give it too much attention. There's a fine line you got to walk. So, there's this snowball effect. So the negative behavior starts, and then as the adults, we kind of get amped up. Like our body has a natural response to these tough behaviors, and it's because we're human. There are physical things that happen to our bodies. There are changes that we don't have control over. Our blood pressure goes up. Our hands might start to shake. We go into an elevated state when these behaviors happen, and it's similar to what our body is responding to a threat, but it's natural. But it makes it really hard to think clearly and respond calmly. So as the adult, we start working against each other. So if we stay on this path of working against each other, we're never going to get them to change their behavior. It's as simple as that. So in these moments, we get desperate and we start trying to get into a power struggle. We start trying to flex our power and, make kids do things. You need them to comply. You go head to head with them. And when you pick that battle, nobody's going to win. Even if you can get the kid to comply, you've broken them, and it'll make them double down and rebel even harder. So in those moments, in those fights that we shouldn't really be fighting, instead of trying to flex our power, we need to do something different, because this is making them act out worse and it's ruining our relationships with them. So what I want to focus on is the child in these situations. They think they're being bad or they're in trouble, and they get punished, or, they can feel that the adult is frustrated. And once that starts, it's only going to get worse. So we need to repair the connection. And as the adults, we need to say, "I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to stop this cycle." And you got to just come in and be different and say, "I know you're a good kid. Even though that wasn't a good choice, I know you're a good kid. And I'm here to help you to be the best that you can because I care about you." You have to separate the child from their actions. We can't just throw out this label like, well, they're mean or they're a troublemaker. All kids are good. And so they might do something that's not nice, but they're still good. So we need to be the one that says, "I believe in you. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going anywhere." It's hard to do that because it's hard to stay calm. You need to be prepared and be able to get them to work with you instead of against
Mhm.
you. So the way to do it is to throw a curveball. You need to do something unexpected
Throw a
because
curveball.
curveball, yes, the kids have heard the same things over and over from adults. So we're not going to say what they're used to hearing. We're not going to do the things they're used to us doing. We're going to do something different. So this is where we're going to flip the script. So, they've been labeled a troublemaker. They don't have much to look forward to. They keep getting stuff taken away. So we need to give them that purpose, because you can't take a child's purpose away and expect them to be happy and work hard and be good when they have nothing to look forward to.
Mhm.
So this intervention I call is getting them back on your team. So you're going to put up the white flag and kind of surrender that fight. You're going to try to get them back on your team, because they would love to push back and use those behaviors that they know drive us crazy. They would love to get us all worked up. And as a side note, this is fascinating, but children crave attention. So it's actually a survival instinct. So even negative attention, when we're yelling at them, it sends positive signals in their brain.
Mm.
So you might think, I'm yelling at them, surely this will make them stop. But that's not the case, because in their brains, they crave attention. So when we give negative attention, they're still getting positive signals in their brain. So they're going to keep doing whatever it
Wow.
is to keep, and they're going to do it over and over again.
Mhm.
We have to come from a new angle. Give them a compliment about anything. I noticed that you put your dishes in the sink. That was so helpful. And you'll see them light up, and their demeanor will change, because they're expecting you to repeat a direction, and you kind of catch them off guard. And it doesn't even need to be a compliment. You can just notice something, which is very powerful too. You could say, I heard that you scored a goal this weekend. Way to go. Or I saw you help Dad move those boxes. Those looked so heavy. Just take time to share a moment of connection by noticing something or celebrating something. Instead of that normal, I asked you to stop doing that, I told you to stop. Just connect with them on something small.
Mhm.
And then, the logic behind this is that overpowering doesn't work. You can't force them to do it. So when we get into a power struggle, we see that doesn't work. So we got to build that relationship. They have to value your opinion. They have to care what you think. Your words have to hold weight. That mentality of, they're going to do it because I said so, it doesn't work. They'll just refuse. You need them to care about what you say, and you get them to see you in a new way by making these little deposits, like genuine moments of positive interaction that show them that you care, like you really care about them and how they feel. It matters.
Mhm.
Let them put their guard down.
Mhm.
In those moments when you say, when you have an ask of them, they're likely to do what you ask, because they know that you're not just trying to ruin their fun. They know that you want good things for them.
Mhm.
So either a compliment or a notice. And then the next one is you start asking them questions to try to learn more about them. Because kids who exhibit bad behavior get told what to do all day long. When you change things up and you ask them a question to learn more about them, it means so much to them. What's your favorite color? I like blue too. What do you like to do on the weekends? You can go deeper. What makes you happy? What are you afraid of? And if it's with your own kid, you'll be surprised how throwing some questions into the mix can totally shift the way that they feel in a particular moment. I'm thinking of my toddler. When I change, when I'm about to get upset and I go, wait, what's your favorite color? She just goes, purple. And then it's like, okay, we're back to remembering that we're working together here. They love to answer questions about themselves. Talking about themselves feels good. What do you like more, Christmas or Halloween? It doesn't really matter what you're asking them, but they love to talk about themselves. And when they're in trouble, a lot of the time you miss that critical opportunity to connect with them. So as long as you are sending positive messages, sooner or later, you're going to make positive connections in their brain, and they'll start to react differently to you.
Mhm.
So the compliments, noticing, asking questions. And then the third step is to ask for their help. So this goes back to giving them that purpose. You're going to tell them that you need their help with something important.
Mhm.
and this is gonna be a big deal.
Mhm.
And because if you're a teacher, it the kids it this kid doesn't get to help with much. If it's your own kid, you might not realize, but you've probably let misbehavior stop you from letting your child help with things because you anticipate them doing it wrong. And that's hurting the relationship and that's causing them to do more bad behavior. So
Yeah,
we're gonna flip the script.
yeah.
And out of nowhere, you're gonna point out a strength of theirs and you're gonna tell them that they're needed.
Yes.
Hey, bud, I noticed how strong you are when you were carrying your book bag. I could use help with something heavy. Would you like to help me with a special job? You know, it doesn't matter what kind of compliment and job you're giving and asking of them, but you just need to find something that they get excited about. It can be anything. Can you carry this for me? You were so good at that.
Uh-huh.
Like it almost sounds too simple, but when you have a kid who has only felt like a burden, who doesn't know what it feels like to be good at things, and all of a sudden you come in and say, you need their help, it really changes their whole world.
I love
They
that.
go from, I'm not good, no one lets me do anything, no one needs me,
I'm
to
worthless.
I'm
I
the
mean, they
problem, I'm
start
help.
feeling worthless, and
Yes,
then they've got
completely.
nothing to lose. You've got no leverage.
Exactly, and they go even worse. Yes.
You know,
So it's a big shift. Now they think, "My mom needs me," or "My grandma needs me."
oh,
It's
yeah,
very important,
self-esteem goes
and
up. Yeah,
yes, and it
I interviewed, Dr. Steve Stosny, who works with adults in marriage context, and his one of his big mantras is, "It's about connection more than communication." And,
yes,
you can build a connection without talking, with doing something
yes,
alongside them, and you talk about, saying, "Match me," you know, just doing something to get their attention and letting them, join you, do parallel play or, hanging up the coat that they threw down without saying anything, and or just
yep,
saying, "It's so good to have things in order," or, letting it
and order
pass.
feels good for kids too. Order
Yeah,
feels good for kids too. A lot of times people say, "Oh, they're just kids, they can't clean up good," or whatever, but it's like, they when you teach them to do things in a particular way and you empower them to know how to do it, they want that order, they crave that, um that responsibility of having things in order. So,
well, that's
it just drives me crazy when people say, "Well, they're just little, it's just crazy," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't have to be like this," and it feels crazy for them too, and
mhm.
when we can calm everything down, it feels better for everybody.
I loved how you
So
talked about, the calm environment, the softer lighting, the
yes,
noise level that you don't raise your voice, if you can.
the louder they get, the lower I get, the more I come down to a whisper,
Mhm. And the
and
smells, you
eventually you'll
talked
get them
about
all.
spraying magic spray, I don't know, some people wouldn't want that phrase, but, uh, tell about that.
So I use yeah, we call it magic sprays. You could call it whatever you want. In preschool, it's fun to bring in some, imagination.
Yeah.
But an example like this, it's just a small bottle. This one says smart spray on it and has a picture of a kid with a light bulb moment. And this is just providing them with a way to redo a situation. So if something happens and you can have friend spray, you can have ouchie spray, you can have calm spray. So that if they're acting all crazy, you go, "Hold on, let me get some of that magic spray," and you go over and you get it, and then you spray, and then they breathe it in, and we go, "Okay, is it working?" And then they calm themselves, and they go, "Oh, yeah, it's working, it's working." Or, if they have an allergy on their skin to me, they go, "Okay, it's working," and I always tell them, "This is very expensive. This is very special stuff, we can only use it." They just get so excited about it. "Oh my gosh, it's expensive?" And it's like, "Yes,
You're
it's very
worth it.
special stuff." Yes. So they love it, and then, you can even just make one that's friend spray, so when they have trouble sharing, instead of going over and saying, "Hey, that's not how we do it," you say, "Hey, bud, I noticed that you were pulling that toy instead of taking a turn. Let's go get some of that spray. That'll help you to try that again." And, like, it removes the shame, so they don't feel like you're correcting them. They feel like you have this magical thing that's gonna help them try that again, and they don't feel ashamed to do it. They say, "Sure, let's go get some of that and try it again." And then they'll take turns and they get to practice doing it the right way without being ashamed of it.
Mhm. Yeah,
I mean, so much of it comes down to the mindset. So
yeah,
the way that you look at each situation is going to change the outcome. So if you come in and you're grumpy and you're correcting them constantly, it's just going to be a snowball. But if you say, I have a chance to make this child feel great and to learn new skills and to find a purpose, then you're going to see the bad behavior disappear.
mhm,
You know, the heart of my entire framework is positive messaging,
mhm,
building connections, eliminating the bad behavior with positivity. And when teachers take my course, it's not just like things will get a little bit better. It's like I am going to blow your socks off by how different it's going to be, or else I'll refund your investment, no questions
right,
asked. Because once you put in strategies, it just switches everything, and you go from working against your kids to working together, and then each day of building on that is just the possibilities are
yeah.
endless.
You know, recently I was with, one of my grandkids at the park, and I hadn't brought any snacks. I don't think of that very much. Well, after about an hour, one of them said, "I'm so hungry," and I thought it was probably quite true. It wasn't just, whining, it was probably time to have their mid-morning snack, and we weren't the schedule didn't permit leaving yet. So I thought of you, and I thought, "Get on the same side of the problem." And I just said,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
hungry too." And, she just she just departed from the idea and went on playing. It was like I empathized, but I
Yep.
didn't offer a solution right then, and we just kept going for another half hour till we could get something to eat.
That is perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Try to keep them, let them know you're on the same team. You're not working against them. You're not trying to be the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah, and, I like how you have learned and instinctually know that your gut feeling about what you're doing will be telegraphed to that child. And you may
Yes.
walk in a classroom thinking, "This is the worst class I've had in 15 years. I don't know how I'm gonna get through this day. This person and this person are gonna drive me crazy today." And if you have that attitude, it will come out no matter how you're
100%.
resolving to be a good person and be a good teacher. They pick it up. And, in a
Yeah.
family, sometimes I think, I know I love this child or this relative. I love this person. My Christian ethic calls for that. There's no other alternative, but I don't like them. But that will be telegraphed. And I have to
Yes.
work on liking sometimes more than
Yes.
loving or doing my professional duty.
Yes.
If a kid really believes you like them, it is so powerful, isn't it?
Yes. And they know when you don't, you're so right. And when you can say, "Hey," when you can acknowledge that and realize, I'm feeling a certain way. I need to see this kid and I need to get to know him a little bit better and I need to put in a little bit of time connecting because they will start treating me differently and then everyone's feelings will start changing. But you have to be the one that says, "I'm going to invest in connecting with this kid to make it different."
Yeah. Talk about nap time because that's something that, families have to work on too. How do you get the kids from playing on working to asleep?
So, I mean, it's important to hopefully let them play as much as, they can and have them be tired when nap time comes around. But one of the best strategies is a nap time spray. In the classroom, it's like they lay down on their mat and I would come around and tuck each kid in and say, "Do you want some nap time spray? This is that stuff that helps you calm down." And it's also like you can put a drop of perfume or essential oils or something in it so that they kind of are breathing and that helps them to slow down, take some breaths as they're calming their body. And then I, especially in the classroom, have flipped it so that it's like, as long as I don't want you to be on your mat a long time either. I want you to get up as soon as you can. This is, I'm not trying to be the one that's sitting here saying that you have to be on your mat. But when you can flip with them and say, all you have to do is lay on your mat for that first 15 or 20 minutes. And then when you do that, I'll come around and invite you to get up and be able to do a quiet craft or whatever it is. And what I found was once you could get them to be on your team for that first 15 minutes and lay calmly, 9 out of 10 kids are going to fall asleep because they aren't anxious about it. They're just like, okay, if I lay still, I'll be able to get up and there's nothing scary or, nobody's yelling. And so they lay down and they fall asleep. And that's great because the whole room's pretty calm. And then there's a couple kids who will be still awake after that time, but they've sat nicely. So then I can go over to them and say, nice job. And I can put their mat away and I can let them sit at a table and eat their snack quietly or do a quiet craft at a table because they've earned the right to get off of their mat. So they're going to behave when they get the opportunity to get up. They're not going to try to misbehave that whole time on their mat, and they're not going to try to play around after. It's going to be a great time. I loved that time to bond with those kids who got up and were able to spend that 20 or 30 minutes while the other kids slept. We could do so many things because they're quiet and we're working together and I'm getting out fun little art things. And they're just like, oh my gosh, yeah. So kind of working with them and saying, I'm not the one that's going to force you to be on your mat. I don't want you to be on the mat as long or any longer than you need to either,
Yeah.
But we'll have this pray, we'll have this music on, and we'll create a calm environment so that nobody feels anxious. And then most of them will just sleep, because they need to sleep.
Yeah.
And the few that don't will be able to step up responsibility because you've kind of created the expectation that they know what to do and they can do it.
I used to tell my kids, you can do anything you want during nap time as long as your head is on the pillow. Put your head down, and they pop back up. I said, no, just put your head down. You can look at a book with your head down. You can play with your animals with your head on the pillow. That's all I ask.
Yes.
And they fall asleep.
Yes, exactly.
I would too.
As long as you can stop that resistance, as long as you can find a way to stop them from being in that fight or flight in the beginning time, most of them will fall asleep. So the best way to do it is to say, hey, this is just going to be a few minutes on your mat and then we'll get up. And then they can calm their bodies and ease into a restful sleep.
I notice you talk about the privileges, and you kind of mentioned this already, that your privilege that you dispense in the classroom is access to fun materials.
Totally.
What are some of the privileges that you give them?
So, well, I basically look at everything that we're going to use and do as this is something so special, and I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. And then, as long as you use it the right way, this will be open to you at a center. A lot of the problems come from not introducing materials the right way, not getting the kids excited, not showing them what they need to know. So when I do that, they get so excited. I show them, okay, and we got a new work here. We got something, whatever it might be, like this is these fun little scissors that they can clamp these big pom-poms. And I'll say, you're going to get to use these and you're going to grab a ball and move it over here. And you're going to move all of them over with these special scissors. And they get so excited to use the new materials, whatever it is. So they get excited about trying it. And then when they try it, they're going to use it the right way because I showed them how to do it. They want to be able to keep doing it. They want to be able to use all the materials in the classroom and do all the centers that are available. So getting them excited, showing them the right way to do it, and then saying, of course you can use that. You know the right way to do it. Show me how you do it. Just sort of introducing them with that excitement. And that's how you get them to do it the right way.
And you can enlist other kids, right, to help or demonstrate, model?
Absolutely. Especially if I have a tough kid, one of the best things I'll do is find a new toy. I have this one drill with these little plastic screws, and I'll teach that troubled kid how to do this very special new center that everyone's going to want to do. And when I show it to them, I'll teach them the right way to do it. I'll show them the important things. And then I'll let that kid sit in front of the entire class and teach the whole class how to do it. And they're going to do it the right way because they're so excited for this opportunity. They don't usually get to do special stuff like this. And then they feel this sense of responsibility. So they're going to teach everyone else how to do it. And then they're going to become kind of a little encourager that sees other kids doing it and says, oh, wait, let me just show you one thing about that. And let me teach you how to do this. And they become a leader, because that kids with bad behavior are going to be a leader in the wrong way. But if you can stop that and make them a leader in the right way, then they're going to step up and do it. And they're going to be great at it.
I was teaching high school years ago, and we had I still remember that child's name. You remember, don't you? The
Absolutely.
challenging kid,
Absolutely. You do.
and, he he was a nightmare in his 10th grade class, and I wasn't very successful with him. I was trying to teach English and be scholarly, and he wanted to bounce all over the classroom. And our principal was a very wise man, and he got together with this kid and designed a project for him and said, I need you when we go on field trips with young kids. And I thought the principal was insane. But this
Yes.
kid had the
Yep.
energy to sheepdog these little kids, and
Yes.
he was on his best behavior. He kept them in order
Yes.
on the bus, he gave them attention, he was funny. It just harnessed all these gifts in this young man that really changed him then in his overall school behavior.
Yes. I, as a preschool teacher, do lunch duty with the older grades, and I didn't even know any of them because I was new at that school and I was teaching the little guys. So I walked into the cafeteria and I'm talking like third graders. And if they don't want to listen to you and if they don't know you and if they don't have any reason to do what you say, I was just in there going, well, they're just saying no to me. They're just laughing at me. They're out of control. And I don't have any way to I have no leverage here. So what ended up happening was a few of the worst behaved kids, the ringleaders, I ended up inviting them to visit in my preschool classroom, and they absolutely became the leaders. The one kid that was the biggest, ringleader of troublemaking, um, ended up wanting to earn time in my classroom. So his teacher would call me and she would say, can he come down again? He wants to come down again for 15 minutes and help get your kids ready to go to lunch. And, he'd play Legos for a few minutes. And I'm like, absolutely, send him down. And it wasn't until they stepped into my classroom and they wanted to be the leaders and they were all of a sudden helpful, tying the kids' shoes and helping to tidy things up and doing whatever we needed them to do, that finally we had a relationship where I didn't have any more problems. That was the only way that I could have kids listen to me in the cafeteria, because I had to know them and I had to have a relationship with them.
You talked about building empathy. I don't think you used that word, but I'm watchful for that, among teachers and leaders. And you talked about when a child, hurts or, um, kind of infringes on another child, and the dilemma of forcing them to say, "I'm sorry." Could you talk about how to handle that?
Yeah. So, um, if you try to force a kid to say, I'm sorry, they're not going to do it most of the time. Even if you force them and they say, I'm sorry, most of the time they'll learn that just, if they say it, they can do whatever they want. And they go, sorry,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. And then you're like, well, that's not helpful. So what I learned was not forcing an apology. Obviously, you want them to eventually get to the point where they do say, I'm sorry, but how do you get them there? So what I found was I would model when one incident would happen with a kid. If a kid got hurt in some way, I would say, are you okay? So it became the norm that everyone in our classroom was always checking on someone. If you heard someone say, I'm okay, or if it looked like they had been hurt, you would say, are you okay? So you would kind of tend to the child that had been hurt. And then they all started picking up on it. So, if you walked in my room and you tripped, you would hear them all say, are you okay? Are you okay? And by having that become normal to them, it it just became the logical next step that they'd be able to say, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Are you okay? How can I help you? So it was just so hard in the beginning because you're forcing kids to say sorry because you need them to do something to, you know, repair this interaction. But forced apologies don't get you anywhere. So I thought, how do I get them to come to this on their own? And by them asking, are you all right? Are you okay? Okay, good. Sorry about that. By the end of the year, every kid was saying, I'm sorry. But more importantly, they were checking on each other and they were truly caring about how the other person felt because they weren't so ashamed that you need to say sorry. That just shuts kids down.
Mhm. I like that for so many reasons. I'm glad that you value apology. I think it's a justice
Yeah.
ritual that the victim needs to see happen,
Yes.
that, the authorities do care about
Yes.
fairness. But
Yes.
you had a longer term strategy for making that happen, naturally, and that it's beautiful. I remember a study that was done in a book I read called, Bringing Up a Moral Child, and, it said they had 2 classrooms. In one, they, played a or they made a sound of a big thump, some accident happening in a neighboring room, and, they had the teacher in the classroom with the live children ignore it and, just go on, and, in another setting, they had the sound go off, and the teacher went, "Oh my, we have to find out what's wrong and go help. We need to see if anyone's hurt." And, the kids the next time something was played like that, the kids in with the empathetic teacher reacted more empathetically. And, it
Yes.
has to be modeled, and,
Yes.
I like how you're handling that and teaching others to do so.
Yeah. They'll come around. Every single kid will come around and will say, I'm sorry. And we'll check on the kid if you set them up to do it in a way that they don't feel ashamed of it.
You are really masterful at constructing sentences that are weighted, in a way that will draw the child in, like you talk about. Instead of saying, "Do this," you say, "I wonder what will happen if you do this," or, "What are the chances you could," or, "How should we do
Yeah.
this now that it's time for it?" Or, "That was tricky, let's try again, I bet you can do better this next time." Those
Yes.
little just they're so simple and yet they really help me emotionally in the moment when I feel a little off balance by what a child has done. They help me get back my adulthood and my control.
Yes. It helps to not take on the entire burden yourself because when you're the teacher or you're the mom or you're the parent and you're there with the kids and something happens, it's so easy to kind of feel like, well, I'm in control. I need to control this. But it's like, I don't need to be fully in control. And if I can pose a few questions or invite them to help, it just, you want the responsibility to be on the kids. So it helps you to stop trying to take it all. Once you start to realize, like, oh, if I say it a little differently or if I respond a little differently, they can, like you said, start to kind of take things on or
And you're
help you
not
think through.
taking it
Like,
personally. You're
oh, go
showing that
ahead.
you're not taking it personally by the way you
Yes.
respond. Yeah.
Rudolph Dreikers said, all kids need two things: belonging and significance. So they want to belong and they want to feel significant. So a good tip for parents and anyone working with kids is really tough kids, especially boys, to praise them in public and correct them in private. So don't make a big scene of telling them what they're doing wrong. Do that in private because they'll appreciate that and they will respect you even more and they'll want to do it better because you considered their feelings. You thought about how they would feel and you chose to whisper it in their ear instead of saying it in front of everyone. And that makes a huge difference for kids because they're so quick to just shut down. But if you think about it, they need to belong and they need to feel significant, which is when you think about any kids that are acting out, they're missing one of those two things.
Absolutely. Well, would you tell our listeners if they've enjoyed this and benefited, and how could they not, beyond this podcast, where can they find you and find more of these helpful tips?
So if you're a parent or a babysitter or anyone working with kids, I have tons of tips that I share on my Instagram, pre-K teacher tips. And if you are an education teacher, I have a course. So if you're feeling that you don't like the way that you're feeling, I'm here to help you. No one is teaching the stuff that I'm going to teach you. So you don't have to be mean and scary. So I created a framework, the Calm Classroom. And if my strategy is making sense to you and you'd like to make some more shifts in your classroom, I would invite you to learn more. I'm going to give you 19 strategies that are simple and effective to put an end to the misbehavior. So we'll put a link in the show notes, and my website is triedandtrueteacher.com. You can learn more about the course there. And Leah, I wanted to say thank you to you. So I made a promo code with your name, Leah, for 15% off if teachers wanted to sign up for the course. And
Great.
if you're in the old, or if you're not someone who's ready to sign up for the course yet, make sure to join my email list. I'll send you tips and strategies, but best of all, I get to talk to you. So you can hit reply to any of the emails I send you and let me know what's going on with your kid, and I will write you back. To join my email list, there's a link in the show notes, or you can just visit my website, triedandtrueteacher.com, and sign up on there. But I would love to talk to you more. So send me a message on Instagram and don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help.
Oh, this would be great. Thank you so much. And I'm sure many people will do that, Caylee. We appreciate it. And thanks to my producer, Caleb. Bye for now. Subscribe and review Conversation Balloons on your favorite podcast platform. Find me at leahfarish.com and on Instagram at LeahFarish.